Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Los Ranchos de Albuquerque Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of March 10th, 2026. All right, we'll do a roll call vote to start this off. Commissioner Bayless.
Present.
Commissioner Chivington.
Present.
Commissioner Duran.
Present.
Commissioner Haywood is excused tonight. Commissioner Martinez.
Here.
Commissioner Tagliapetra.
Present.
Commissioner Homan, I'm here as well. Let the record show that we do have a quorum present for the meeting. Next, we'll go on to the agenda. If all commissioners will take a look at the agenda, do any of you have any additions to the agenda as it is currently stated?
I make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, before we hold a vote, Director Schultz, is there any additions or corrections you would like to make?
Madam Chair, no corrections or changes at this time. Thank you.
Great. All right, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless?
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington?
Aye.
Commissioner Durant?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
And Commissioner Tagliapetra?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. Let the record show that the agenda has been approved as it was presented. And we will go on to the public comment period. Residents may address the Planning and Zoning Commission to comment on issues, problems, or successes on topics that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. Audience members will be given an opportunity to comment on agenda items as they come up. Speakers must register with the village staff prior to the beginning of the meeting. That was all of those pages that were out there. If you didn't have an opportunity, please let us know and we'll get you on this. I have a list of those who have signed up to speak, and as the different topics come up, you will be called according to whatever the matter is, and you'll see as we go through that. But for those that are wanting to speak just on the public comment period, when your name is called, please come up to the podium, give your name and address, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. And once again, these are comments or comments, suggestions, maybe even praises on what we've done here in the village that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. Okay, first on our list, Daniel Goodman. Okay, all right, Vincent Sanchez.
Vincent Sanchez, 6802 Rio Grande. I would like to thank whoever wrote what is a variance and what is not in the current issue of the Village Vision. Not only do I believe this is an accurate read, but it is clear and easy to understand. It also supports how I have viewed the process. However, application is much harder in practice. When the author writes, it is often assumed to be a loophole, a favor, or a way to get around the zoning code. They are correct. It does seem that way when a variance criteria or requirement are ignored completely. The unique situation requires a fair and consistent way of addressing an unfair and inconsistent land limitation of a property itself. But where the loophole happens is when people don't apply for it in the first place and the variance process is neither stated nor enforced. As of late, the village has enforced this. I believe this to be because everyone currently at the Village Zoning Department, and for that I thank them. I believe there are issues tonight that will confirm this. In my own fight with the village, and to a certain extent with the village, I can point to a breakdown where this standard was not followed. And to this day, my family has been forced to deal with the consequences of subjective reasoning while the village has continued to deny responsibility. My issues predate almost all the current P&Z Commission and Zoning Department. While the village has gone through excessive turnover, my concerns have been wrongfully dismissed and ignored over and over again. Since the public cannot get questions answered in this forum, I asked the Commission to request Mr. Chappell to clarify something. Can an incorporated municipality, like the village, make a ruling, ordinance, or regulation that is in direct conflict or violates state statute? Because I've been told the village can make this decision in direct conflict. I have also been told private easements, like platted irrigation easements, are not of the purview of the village. This is false. The village character, adopted master plans, and code clearly outline these easements publicly and privately. They are 100% under the authority of the village to enforce, and like variances, everyone could use a refresher course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Marcela Gallegos.
Hi. I was just going to trying to follow up
If
on
you
it.
could start with your name and
Oh,
address,
sorry,
please.
sorry, thank you. This is my first rodeo. Marcela Gallegos, 348 Vineyard Road Northwest, Los Ranchos, New Mexico. I was following up on an incident, I don't even know if it's called an incident, online that I submitted early January about the ditch right behind the new apartments on 4th and Osuna. I think they call it the Chamisal. Yeah. So there's, since the people have moved in, there's poop up and down that ditch, really, really bad. Now there's trash. It's just trash. And I wanted to know if we could put up the signs that are on all the other ditches with the poop bags and everything else down it and kind of make sure it's not like that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we will start on the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions on these items. If, for a reason, discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and we will consider it separately. We only have one item on the consent agenda, which is the approval of our last meeting, February 10th, 2026, of the regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the February 10th, 2026 regular planning and zoning meeting minutes.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. The motion was by Commissioner Tagliapetra. The second was by Commissioner Martinez. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless?
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington? Aye. Commissioner Duran?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. Let the record show that the Planning and Zoning meeting minutes from February 10th have been approved. Now will we go on to the public hearings and applications? And all right, again, anyone wishing to provide testimony during this portion of the meeting, including applicants, applications, agents, members of the public in support, or members in the public in opposition of any particular matter, must sign up in response to giving their comments and testimony. Did everybody have an opportunity, once again, to sign up? I know we had a person or two that came in late. Okay, I don't see anybody eager to sign up at this point. Attorney Chappell, will you now swear in those providing testimony tonight?
Here I am. If you're going to testify on any matter on the agenda tonight, unless you are a licensed attorney, I would ask that you stand, raise your right hand, and take an oath. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Thank you, Mr. Chappell. Okay, the first thing on our agenda is S-2601. Jessica Lawless, agent for Palindrome Communities, LLC, is requesting submission for final plat major subdivision located at 350 Osuna Road, Los Ranchos, New Mexico, 87107. This is deferred from the Planning and Zoning meeting of February 10th, which was our regular meeting. The following will apply to the items of business. The Planning and Zoning Department has deemed this matter to be a quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that certain individual processes and protections are required. One of these protections ensures the adherence of due process, including but not limited to full disclosure at this time by any member of the commission of any real or potential conflict of interest associated with this matter or engagement in any ex parte communication regarding this item. At this point, I will ask each of the commissioners if they have anything to report. Commissioner Bayless, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter? No. Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No, I have not.
Okay. Commissioner Chivington, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
I do not.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this?
I have not.
Commissioner Duran, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Martinez, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Tagliapetra, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
And myself, Commissioner Homan, I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter, and I have not engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Director Schultz, may we please have the planning report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a final plat, the third and final stage of plat approval here at the village. This one is a little more complicated than the typical plat that comes before the board, so I'm going to focus more on the history of how we got here rather than the merits of the request, because the merits have already been determined to have been met in previous decisions. The trailhead at Chamisal Plat was first recorded with Bernalillo County in 2022, following an administrative review by the village. Following that recording process, the district courts subsequently decided that the process that plat followed was not correct. There were no issues with the merits of the plat, only the process. And so the courts determined that the applicant, Palindrome Communities, needed to go back through the process with the plat. Starting with that process, a pre-application meeting was held with village staff in fall of 2024. The Planning Commission considered a sketch plat in October of 2024, at which meeting no action was taken. Those are for discussion only. Following that discussion, the preliminary plat was received and recommended for approval by the Planning Commission in January of 2025. Following that approval, the Board of Trustees heard the final preliminary plat in April of 2025. There are several iterations to the village's platting process, at which stage the plats get more specific and more information is provided. At the Board of Trustees meeting in 2025, a couple of things were determined. One, it was determined by that board that the plat did meet all the technical requirements of the code, but more importantly, there was a condition put on the plat that impacts tonight's motion and tonight's decision, that the final plat will only be active for tracks 1, 2, and 3. What was submitted throughout the process was a final plat for 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. However, per the Board of Trustees condition, this body is not able to approve that part of the, a portion of the document related to 4, 5, and 6. So the motion tonight will need to be very explicit that the approval is only for 1, 2, and 3. There is a condition to that effect to make sure that it's clear. I'll reiterate that the technical requirements of the code, the subdivision ordinance here at the village, have been met, and staff finds no issue or error with the technical aspects of the platting documents. Staff recommends that you approve the final plat tonight, subject to the 2 findings in the staff report. The first finding is that the request is in compliance with the final plat requirements outlined in the village's subdivision code, and 2, that the plat is consistent with condition number 1 from the Board of Trustees notice of decision from their April 2025 meeting, that this commission's approval is limited only to tracks 1, 2, and 3. With that, I'll stand for any questions. We also do have the applicant with us this evening who has a power of visual presentation to provide for this item as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Director. Okay, I have a list of those who signed up to speak on this item. When your name is called, please come to the podium. As your name is called, speakers will have 2 minutes to go through their comments. And please, once again, give your name and address for the record. All right, Jessica Lawless. Okay. Do we want to go through the comments first, or we do want the agents to go ahead?
Madam Chair, I think that's the purview of the commission. Your preference on if you would prefer to hear from the applicant prior to public comment or other way around. I've seen it done both ways by this commission.
You know, let's go ahead and do the comments first, and that way, if something comes up, the agents will be able to respond to that. I know normally we do it the flip, but let's do it this way tonight. Thank you. Okay, what do we got? Marcos Rael? Great, thank you. And I have no idea. Raymond Means?
Graham,
Oh,
Graham.
Graham?
You don't remember my daughters and your granddaughters were Girl Scouts?
Yeah, I know. I just didn't see this, I've never seen it spelled that way, so. Graham, please excuse my butchering of your name.
I'm a civil engineering consultant. I'm here for any technical aspects of the civil engineering work for the agent,
All right, thank you.
for the applicant. It's called the fund.
Was there anybody that didn't have an opportunity to sign up for a comment on this? Seeing and hearing none. Can we have the agent give us an overview of what's being requested tonight?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Rebecca Velarde. My address is 1514 Mountain Road, Northwest in Albuquerque. As Ms. Schultz outlined, we have been here before. Again, this commission has approved a preliminary plat, a site development plan. Both of those documents were taken to the Board of Trustees. The site development plan was approved, and that was the end of that process. And now, since the preliminary plat was approved, again with the condition that we are asking for approval for parcels 1, 2, and 3 of the plat, we are now back in front of this commission to ask approval for the final plat. We respectfully request your consideration of this document that is really very much focused on boundaries and lines and easements rather than uses or future development in that area. And I'd like to turn it over to Jessica Lawless with Decker, who is our agent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Velarde. My name is Jessica Lawless. I'm the agent for Palindrome Communities this evening. My address is 7601 Jefferson Suite 100, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87109.
Can you move the microphone up a little more?
Sure.
Perfect, thank
Tall,
you.
so. Thank you for having me this evening. I am here to present the final plat request for the Trailhead at Chamizal project. We do have a slide deck.
Darnell, if you'll please start the presentation.
thank you.
Jessica, you'll have to tell Darnell next slide when you're
Sure,
ready to
great.
move on.
So next slide, please. So just to build off of the brief history that Director Schultz has already provided, one additional item to note is that the overall project master plan, which was required by the development agreement to establish a conceptual vision for all tracks 1 through 6, was approved in 2022. And to reiterate Ms. Schultz's comments and Ms. Velarde's, the site plan and preliminary plats for tracks 1 through 3, as required by the conditions of approval of the notice of decision for Tract A, required us to come back for final plat review, and those were approved in April of last year. Next slide, please. So the request in front of you this evening is for the final plat approval. Again, it's only consistent with tracks, or we're only requesting approval for tracks 1, 2, and 3 at this instance. The preliminary plat was approved in April of last year by both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Trustees, and the final plat confirms that that subdivision, that the subdivision act in front of you complies with the subdivision ordinance as well as the conditions of approval of that preliminary plat notice of decision that was approved last year. Next slide, please. In terms of the purpose of the plat, so the final plat is a preliminary legal document that establishes land division. It really is intended to only define things like property lines, parcel boundaries, establishments of easements for access and utilities, rights-of-way, tract dimensions, and legal descriptions. It does not approve land use, site layout, or building design. Those elements are reviewed separately through site development and architectural approvals, and any future development that is going to happen on tracks 4 through 6 will need to obtain those approvals in front of this commission and the Board of Trustees going forward. So tonight, we're really only focused on the legal configurations of the land for tracks 1 through 3. Next slides, please. As indicated by Director Schultz, the plat has been reviewed for compliance of the village subdivision standard for things including the accurate legal descriptions, clearly defined parcel boundaries and dimensions, consistency with recorded surveys and title information, identification of access and utility easements, conformance with the subdivision requirements for elements such as lot size, frontage, and access, and recordability for filing of the finalized document. Next slide, please. In considering the final plat, the commission's role is really to verify the compliance with the subdivision ordinance and confirm that technical completeness and accuracy of the document, as well as to ensure compliance with the notice of decision conditions from the preliminary plat. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, and to reiterate Mrs. Schultz's point, we find that the final plat is in substantial conformance with the approved preliminary plat and its conditions, most notably that we're really only considering tracts 1 through 3 at this time, as well as it meets the technical and procedural requirements of your village of subdivision ordinance, as proven by the recommendation in Ms. Shanna's staff report in front of you or in your packets this evening. Any future development, as mentioned, just to reiterate, for parcels 4, 5, and 6 will require us as the applicant to come back and seek separate site plan approvals in front of this board. And based on that, we respectfully request the Planning and Commission's approval of the final plat. And we're happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from the commission? These could be questions to the agent or to Director Schultz. Commissioner Martinez.
This in relation to the right-of-way and easement, one of the things that came up way at the beginning is the access to Osuna and the ability to not allow traffic to be directed to the west of that. And I don't know if this relates to that, but it's something that should be done, was talked about being done, but hasn't been done. So I just want to get some kind of feedback from you as far as where are we with that specific problem?
Chair Homan, Commissioner Martinez, I'll take the answer to that question. That was a condition of approval on the site plan, which was a separate document from the plat, but I can provide an update to this commission, which we might have briefly covered at last month's hearing, but happy to reiterate it now, which is the village is actively in conversations with the developer about that no left turn option. We've seen designs and final designs, and it's a matter of us finalizing an agreement to have those installed. It has taken probably longer than it should have, but with turnover in the department, I think we got to it as quickly as we could. So I expect this year, likely before the end of the summer, we will see that no left turn improvement be made on the site.
Okay, thank you. That was my only concern.
Any other questions?
I have a
Mr. Bayless?
question for Director Schultz. At the last meeting when we deferred this, I think I asked for a finding in your analysis, a finding that the final plat is in conformance with the preliminary plat, because I wasn't here when the preliminary plat was approved. And I thought we were going to include that, but the report that's in my file is the same one from January 30th, and I don't see that finding.
Chair Homan, Commissioner Bayless, you're right, and I did draft that finding, so I'm a little perplexed as to why it's not here. I might have had a file save iteration issue, but if you'd like, I can verbally suggest a finding for this board to adopt into the record that would go into the notice of decision.
I just want that to be some piece of evidence that the final plat's the same as the preliminary plat.
Sure, so here's what I would suggest, and then a commissioner can just say to make a motion to add that finding to the staff report. I would suggest a third finding to read: the final plat as submitted by the applicant is in conformance with the final preliminary plat as approved by the Board of Trustees.
I would like to make a motion to add that finding to your report.
Okay.
To make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
You need to make a motion to accept tonight's first and add that second.
We're doing it to the report. We're doing it to the report, not to the,
Okay, not to the approval.
yes. So with that, let's do a quick roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless?
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington?
Aye.
Commissioner Duran?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. All right, we'll continue. Any other questions of the applicant or the director? Okay, let the record show right now we are complete with input from the audience, and we're on to straight discussion. Do we want to have a motion at this point that will allow us to discuss further? No, they've already said no. Oh, one short one. Darnell, is there anybody online that's wishing to speak on this matter? Thank you for that confirmation.
I would like to make a motion to approve S 2601 for a major subdivision for tracks 1, 2, and 3 for Palindrome Communities with the three findings of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Great, is there
I'll
a second?
second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Tagliapetra and seconded by Commissioner Bayless. Now, we're open for discussion. Is there any discussion on this matter before we vote? Seeing and hearing none, we're on to a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless?
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington?
Aye.
Commissioner Duran?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. Let the record show that this has been approved, and the record is closed on this matter. We will go on to the next issue. And get to the right page. It's page 57 for everybody that's up here. If I can get to it. Okay. Oops, I think I passed it. No. All right. So we're at V2601. Sharon Cordova requests a variance of 9.5 feet to the 15-foot side setback requirement, a variance of 7 feet to the 25-foot rear setback requirement, and a variance of 2 feet to the 6-foot maximum wall height requirement for the property located at 811 Tyler Road Northwest. All right, the following will apply to this item of business. Once again, the Planning and Zoning Commission has determined that this matter is to be a quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that certain individual processes and protections are required. One of these protections ensures the adherence of due process, including but not limited to full disclosure at this time by any member of the commission of any real or potential conflict of interest associated with this matter or engagement in any ex parte communication regarding this matter. Commissioner Bayless, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
I do not have any conflict.
Is your microphone on?
I have no conflict.
Thank you. Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this matter?
I have not.
Commissioner Chivington, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
I do not.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
I have not.
Commissioner Duran, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Martinez, do you have a conflict of interest in this item?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this matter?
No.
Commissioner Tagliapetra, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte, engaged in ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
And Commissioner Homan, myself, I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter, and I have not engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Director Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. As the Chair mentioned, this is a request for 3 separate variances, one to a side setback requirement, one to a rear setback requirement, and one to a maximum wall height. The staff report outlines that this request came to us via a code enforcement action that started in May of last year, when it was noticed that there was new construction, new completed construction on the property. This case is currently pending at municipal court, and we have asked the municipal court to hold off on further action until this body makes a decision on the variances. Variance criteria in the village's zoning code is pretty explicit. There are a number of criteria that must be justified by the applicant. The most important of which is a hardship criteria. Variances in the village require that there be something so unique about the size and shape of your lot that applying the code in a normal manner like we would to any other property would make your property undevelopable or unreasonably undevelopable. Staff finds via the analysis in the staff report that the applicant has not adequately justified the variance criteria against any 3 of their requests and does recommend denial of all 3 variances. There is an explicit analysis for each of the criteria in the staff report. I won't read those to you verbatim, but I would be happy to answer any questions you have about staff's analysis on any one of those. Staff has 7 findings suggested for this commission and 1 condition. The condition is maybe the most important one, which is if it is the will of this body to follow staff's recommendation and deny the variances, the property will be required to come into compliance with the code by July 1st of this year. That date can be changed, amended by this body if they so choose, but at some point compliance will need to be met or the village will be forced to continue with enforcement action in either municipal court or district courts if it goes that far. With that, staff will stand for any questions.
Are there any questions of Director Schultz?
No.
Anyone? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Will the agent or representative like to give us an overview? If you'll please provide your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Yvette Tovar, and I am assisting the property owner, Sharon Cordova, with the variance requests for the property at 811 Tyler Road Northwest. We would like to invite Sharon Cordova, the owner, to submit a statement that she would like to share with the commission at this time if it meets with your approval. After that, I would like to go through our reasoning and justifications for each of the 3 variance requests. Thank you.
Madam Commissioner and fellow commissioners, my name is Sharon Cordova. I am the property owner at 811 Tyler Road. I am a retired public school teacher of 33 years, single, and I have 3 dogs. I am planning to move into my home as soon as possible. I fell in love with the property, community, and neighborhood and wanted to be part of it. 2 years ago, after my purchase, I met several neighbors and was welcomed into the neighborhood. I had ideas and a vision to improve the condition of the property, both inside and outside. I purchased the property in March of 2024 in an as-is condition and have been working to improve it since. The house, the front and backyards have been remodeled, repaired, and cleaned up. Throughout the remodeling, neighbors have visited and commented on the beautiful transportation taking place. It is to my dismay and disappointment that my 2 adjoining neighbors have filed complaints about the features added to the backyard of my property. I feel it's very important to get along and start off on the right foot with neighbors. When approached by my neighbor to the west, Marcia Pincus, at 819 Tyler Road, regarding the portal, I gave her a blueprint of the construction and shared my number should she have any questions. I didn't hear anything, so I continued with the portal construction. My other adjoining neighbor to the east, Don Goodman, at 809 Tyler Road, came over several times and complimented how nice the portal was and how it made a significant improvement to the property. Part of the construction in the backyard was the addition of CMU block wall, 2 feet on the east wall and 4 feet on the west wall, on my side of the property between my neighbors on either side. Once again, I spoke with both neighbors about the changes. I offered both neighbors my willingness to add a stucco finish on their side of the walls, matching their home's stucco color. Neither has taken me up on this offer. To my neighbor, Marcia Pincus, to the west, I offered to remove the existing plants that are in between properties. As you know, it's not uncommon to have volunteer elm trees sprout between the walls. When the block wall in the front yard, the east side of my property, was being repaired, the large root from an adjacent tree of my neighbor, Don Goodman, had grown to the surface and heaved my block wall up and damaged it by breaking up the wall. He did not offer to remove the root that damaged my wall or to help pay for the repair. Instead, he asked if the wall repair could include moving the location of the wall around the tree root, which is clearly visible now on my property. I agreed to accommodate his request at my expense. I have made a significant investment in the improvements to my property that have greatly increased its curb appeal and value. The increased value is also of benefit to my neighbor's property values. I am looking forward to moving into my home in peace and harmony with all my neighbors, and respectfully request approval of the variances. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. So before I proceed, I didn't know if you all would have hard copies or access to the report. So I understand now that you have the digital access, but I did make some printout packets. So I'm going to refer to about 4 or 5 pages within the packet. So for ease of your reference, I'm happy to pass those out if you want them. If not, and the digital works, then I'm happy to do whatever helps you. I
Sure,
hear
go
scenes
ahead.
and yeses.
That way
Okay.
we'll know which page you're on. And these are in our packets, so it's nothing new being submitted to the record. Thank you.
And they are in the order that we'll be referencing them, and you can see the page number as it's referenced in the documents of your packets that you received for the meeting today. So with that said, I'd like to start with the first variance request for the side setback, which is really for an outdoor living space in the backyard, a concrete pad, and then by extension, the shade structure that goes over it. So I would ask you to look at the first sheet that you have there, which is a survey of the property, page 78 in the packet. And I did highlight the existing concrete patio that came with the house when Sharon purchased it. And you can see that the concrete edge to the west on the left side actually went all the way up to the wall. And so there was in effect a 0 setback there. It happened that it was in pretty poor condition. It was cracked, it was spalling, and it was not going to be usable as an outdoor patio surface. So it was removed and a new concrete pad was installed at a 5-foot 6-inch side setback. Now, the second page that I'd ask you to look at, which is page 81 in the packet, is the site plan for the entire site. And I have highlighted in yellow about midpoint there on the left side, the actual footprint of the new concrete pad. And so the drawing originally called for a 10-foot side setback. Now, it still isn't the 15 as zoning requires, but it was initially intended to be 10. And as often happens in the difference between designing on paper in a computer and then getting in the field and realizing how off-center that pad was going to be compared to the exit point adjacent to the house, it didn't quite make sense. And so what was modified was that we used the lines, the footprint of the home, which had a 5-foot 6-inch setback. So the dwelling itself had that, and mirroring that setback by pouring the concrete pad at that same setback as the footprint of the home. And so thereby having a visual sense of continuity between the indoor living space as we transition to the outdoor living space. So in the end, we saw that as an improvement, quite frankly, going from like a 0-foot setback to the 5-foot 6-inch, but we fully acknowledge that it's not the 15, right? And it was informed by the placement of the dwelling. Okay. So tied to that, where the concrete pad landed in terms of where it was poured, then informed where the shade structure, which of course was directly over it. We were in need of a shade structure for a couple of reasons. This is the west end of the yard. It's particularly hot. There was 0 existing vegetation on this site, so it was complete dirt. There were no trees, so there was no tree canopy to offer any respite for this outdoor living space that we were creating. The pad itself is adjacent to the master bedroom, right? So as we transition out there, thinking about how do we make this a comfortable place, the owner really wants to highly engage and use this outdoor living space as she moves into the home. And so we knew we needed a shade structure. So again, the shade structure mirrors the setback of the concrete pad. There is also a color photo, I believe, the next is page 70 in the packet that just shows some of the photos of what that looks like now, and you can see how the new concrete pad and the shade structure do mirror the 5-foot 6-inch setback that the house has on that west side. Okay, so in the end, we thought that for the side setback and the request of the variance that we had actually improved upon what was existing from 0 foot to 5-foot 6 inches. And then we observed a range of side setbacks within the neighborhood. So we kind of looked around and said, you know, kind of what happens in the neighborhood, what's the feel of things? And we just saw that there was a range, which makes sense, right, as you have older established neighborhoods and things that evolve over time. So with that, I'm going to move into the rear setback. So the rear setback variance request is for the storage shed placement. And so again, I'm going to ask you to reference the site plan that you have there. And at the top left of the site plan, in the far northwest corner, you can see the footprint. It's labeled as the existing shed, 100 square feet. So that's what was on the site, and it has remained. But that too essentially had a 0 side setback, 0-foot side setback, and a 0-foot rear setback. So what we did is add an additional storage area to the right of that, to the east of it, as you can see its footprint, and that's a 300 square foot storage shed. So this site did not have a garage. So there was a very practical need for storage on the site, and we really just saw it as a structure that was needed to reasonably support residential use, right? And the size of it reflects that. So the request here, and there are photos, page 71, the color photos in your packet, but page 71, so you can see the shed, see what it looks like in relationship to the backside of the property. And we are asking for the variance of that. So the setback, the rear setback is 25 feet. The first, I believe, is it 10 or 15? Let me look. There's a 10-foot public utility easement on the north end of the property. So with that in mind, we realized that the previous owner had actually installed, you can see the existing CMU wall on the site plan at 10 feet in, and that was really just so we forever respected the public utility easement, right? So essentially that also helped inform that the storage shed at the back of the property would be the back edge of the north end of the storage facility itself. So let's see if there's anything else about that. I don't think so. So with that, I'm going to roll right into the wall height. So first, I'd like to just cover some of the reasons that the property owner, Sharon Cordova, wanted to increase the wall height. The wall height has been increased to 8 feet. It was a different condition at 4 feet existing condition on the west side. It was 6 feet existing condition on the east side, and we'll go through each of those and to the opposition from neighbors and address their concerns. So essentially, the reasons for wanting the wall higher were really rooted in privacy. and really trying to provide reasonable residential privacy for the outdoor living area that was immediately adjacent to the home. It was also about safety and security, and thinking that with the addition of the storage shed and what would be in there, that she wanted to increase that sense of security. It was also about buffering between the properties, right? The buffer between the neighbor to the left and to the right. And part of being a buffer was to be a noise buffer. Like I said, she's anticipating highly activating her outdoor living space, and so she thought it would just kind of help buffer sound there out of respect for her neighbors. And then lastly, I would offer that because of the orientation and it being on the west side, the shade structure and that activity space, we were also concerned about wind and just sort of how comfortable was that outdoor living space going to be. As we know here, we have wind not just in the spring, but there's spring winds, summer winds, and there's wind in parts of the winter. She's highly active in terms of wanting to be outside a better part of the year. So those were all the thoughts behind raising the wall. And so again, really kind of rooted in a reasonable residential use. With that said, though, I would like to address first, more specifically, the neighbor complaints about the west side of the wall. So I mentioned before that the existing block wall was 4 feet tall. It was raised to 8 feet. You have a couple of photos there in your packet. One is provided by Marcia Pincus, who's our neighbor at 819 Tyler Road. And then another neighbor, Gwen Allen Ilg, who is next door to Marcia Pincus at 823 Tyler Road. So both of those photos are looking towards Sharon's property and seeing what it looks like and what is the visual impact of the 8-foot block wall. So just a couple of things to note that we realized upon all of this coming to pass is that what you can see in the photo, especially in the Marcia Pincus photo, which is the color photo, it shows the wall. You can see it at 8 feet height, right? And you can see 1 to 2 courses, 1 to 2 rows of the CMU block there. So the height of a course or a row is 6 inches. So essentially we're looking at a foot above the existing Lathia or coyote fence on Marcia Pincus's property. So in essence, her coyote fence was not 6 feet. It was above 6 feet. It was closer to 7. And not to say that the wall still isn't going above that. We totally understand that. But it varies a little bit between the 1 to 2 courses, just as the way that coyote fencing varies is the nature of that fencing material. But you can see along the full expanse that it varies there. As a good faith offer, Sharon mentioned in her letter, she did offer to Marcia Pincus to stucco finish the wall on her side to match the color of her home so that she would have a visual sense of continuity on her side. With that, the last part is to look at the east side of Sharon Cordova's backyard and that wall height increase. So there we had expressed concerns by her neighbor Dan Goodman at 809 Tyler Road, and that wall was an existing wall, block wall, at 6 feet already, right? And then 2 more feet were added, right? The concern expressed by Mr. Goodman is that it compromised and reduced the sun exposure in his backyard. So to that, I would like to offer just a couple of observations about that. Mr. Goodman's backyard actually is quite dense with vegetation, both understory shrub vegetation and tree canopy. So the orientation of his backyard is facing north, so by its very nature has less sun than if it were facing south or west. It has a lot of vegetation. The growing season, which is June through September, when the sun is high in the sky and would be completely coming over his backyard and giving him the sun exposure he's seeking, would actually be somewhat compromised in terms of how much it would permeate because of how much shade cover currently exists in his backyard. He talks about the blockage of sunlight. The existing wall being at 6 feet was already casting shadows in the late afternoon, as it does in the summertime with the sky, with the sun where it is in the sky. So the addition of the 2 other feet wasn't materially going to dramatically increase the amount of shade that he would get later in the day. So That was his concern expressed, and we were trying to address that as best we could. There was also a good faith offer to Mr. Goodman to match his stucco and to match his house, and that was not responded to at all. So really, in summary, we really saw that what Sharon was trying to do was to materially improve the property, to make it a place that was no longer an eyesore in the neighborhood and was improving not only her property value, but by association and within the radius of the neighborhood, all of her neighbors. So with all of these reasons, we respectfully request that you approve the variances. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to this explanation and appreciate your time and consideration for this. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Martinez?
One of the things that I think is critical from our perspective over here is that our position over here is to look at the rules and regulations from planning and zoning. And I really, really appreciate the camaraderie of all that's happening. But the thing that's always been lacking over here is, at what point did you guys ever realize that you have to go into the village for permits to do all of these things and get information, get the right structure, right height, right, et cetera, setbacks? That's a real serious concern for me, because as commissioners, that's our placement. We have to follow the rules, and those rules definitely need to be followed by everybody in here and in the village. So my question is, why was she never ever in a position to come into the village and ask them, what do we need to do? What are your regulations? How can we follow the rules and regulations of the village?
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. So I think there are a couple of parts to answer that, and I may ask Carlos Garcia, who's a project manager for Sharon Cordova, to weigh in as needed. So we became aware that more than one communication had gone to the property owner and to, as I understand it, if I believe this is right, the previous property owner, but that person was no longer part of the equation. And so Sharon has had some on-again, off-again issues receiving mail. She is not living at the address just yet. And so there was not a timely response, because she did get one for sure. So there was an awareness that something was happening, that there needed to be approvals for something, right? And they were not addressed in the scheme of all that was happening in her life. So there is not a good reasoning or explanation for that. It is not due to lack of understanding once we were aware of it, right? So then the onus is on the property owner, right, to follow the rules and regulations of the community that you're signed up to live in. So that is fully understood, and we are in sincere regret that that did not happen as it should have, and that the protocol was not adhered to for quite a while, truth be told.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Let's see. I don't know what the ruling is, but on a shed and a concrete pad, is it required to get a building permit to do that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Chivington, it's kind of a twofold answer. When development occurs in the village, it's often a two-step process. You come to the village for zoning approval, and then you go to Bernalillo County for building safety approval. Not everything requires building safety approval. My understanding is that Bernalillo County does not require a building permit for sheds under 120 square feet, and they don't require a building permit for concrete work. However, both of those things do have implications for our zoning code, so we would require a zoning permit through the village.
Okay, thanks.
Any other?
I have a question. The letter that was submitted by Ms. Cordova and the contractor, Mr. Garcia, it's pages 68 and 69 in our packet. Mr. Garcia said that it was necessary to remove a 4-foot wall and replace it with an 8-foot wall. Was the existing 4-foot wall actually taken down, or was there just 4 feet added on top of the existing
Thank you for the question, and I apologize because this is an opportunity to clarify. It was not removed, it was built upon. So it was structurally reinforced and 4 feet were added on top of the existing block wall.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner.
And just as a point of information, a CMU unit's 8 feet, 8 inches, not 6 inches.
Oh,
And
I
when I
was
look at the photo you gave us,
So
I
16?
can see 3 rows of bricks over
Oh,
most of the
okay.
expanse of the wall, and that would be 24 inches above the existing coyote fence.
Understood.
Any other questions?
I have one for Shanna, please. What was the size of the shed? Was it not 300 feet, 300 square feet?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Talia Pietra, I believe what Ms. Tovar testified to was that it is 320 square feet for the,
I just said 300 square feet.
yes. The plan does say 320 square feet, but the testimony was 300.
So it would have needed a building permit?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, that would have needed a building permit, and fences that are 8 feet or taller also require a structural permit through Bernalillo County.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we ready for additional input? All right.
Madam Chair, if I just might add, you did receive a communication that came in after the public comment deadline. The public comment deadline was published to be February 26th. There is a letter in your email that was, I think, submitted on March 2nd. It was a letter in support of the project. I just want to make sure that you are aware of that.
It's from Mr. Cedavaca, if I remember right. All right, let's,
So again, back to what you were saying. So a building permit is required for anything over 300 square feet?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Chivington, Bernalillo County requires a building permit for anything over 120 square feet.
all right. Marcia Pincus? And if I butchered your name, please correct it while you're up there. My apologies.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Marcia Pincus,
Marcia?
as opposed to Marcia. So just Marcia, my friends call me
My
Marcia.
apologies.
It's okay, my friends call me Marcy. I want to say I have some notes that I prepared before I heard Ms. Cordover's remarks, and I'd like to just address some of those. I met Ms. Cordover in mid-December of 2024. The wall was already up. The 8-foot wall was up. I was on the assumption that she had gotten a permit. I know this date for sure because we had that terrible snowstorm where the leaves were still on the trees, and a lot of my elm came down in my neighbor's yard that it needed to be picked up and taken care of. So I got my tree guy to come in and take that down. While I had him there, I asked him to go over to Ms. Cordover's property and take off a limb that was hanging over the wall. I didn't want to have any problems with that limb coming down. He went over there and he did that, and then I went over there because her property was very open at that point because she just got to doing things. And I met her and Mr. Garcia. And I went over there to make sure that my contractor didn't mess anything up. And he picked up all the stuff that he cut. And we had a discussion, and Mr. Garcia was talking about some detailed plan from the city of Albuquerque. And I immediately said, well, this is not the city of Albuquerque, this is the village of Los Ranzos, and you've got to go there. And she asked me, Ms. Cordova, where was the village? Admin buildings, and I told her where the village was. And I reiterated that you need to go to the village. I was still under the impression that she had gotten a permit from the village. I didn't realize that the village had a maximum of 8 feet. We later then had another discussion that she offered to stucco my wall. Coyote fence with stucco, I don't want to be responsible for the stucco. I didn't know if even the color would, I was trying to figure out how is this all gonna work? If Ms. Cordova had asked me and come and said, look, your coyote fence is a little high, and if I could put a 6-foot fence in, would you cut the tops? I would have said yes. I didn't want an 8-foot high wall. It makes it feel like a prison, as my pictures that I submitted to you show. And so I would have been happy to cut those for her. The vegetation between the walls is very hard to get to, very hard to get to. It's not an easy thing. And also on the stucco.
The speaker's time has expired.
I assumed I had more time, just like Ms. Cordova's person had time.
No, they're the applicant.
Oh.
You've got 3 minutes. Could you wrap up pretty quick?
Could you wrap it up?
Yes. My biggest concern is the stability of the wall and the safety of the wall. The wall, the weight of the pavilion near the wall, since it doesn't meet the setback, is so close to the wall. The A-frame on the pavilion drains directly into the base of the wall, so there's a foundation soil problem that might come up. The workmanship of the mortar, that I've given you pictures of that, was not very well done, and God knows what it looks like below the coyote fence, because I can't get to it, other than to show you that when they laid on the extra 4 feet, they just put mortar down and then put the new block on top of it. So there's nothing tying the lower wall, the original wall, to the upper wall. And I've had previous owner tell me that one of the walls on the east side came down due to wind. In ending, I want to say that the heightened wall and pavilion caused an adverse impact on my property from the pictures I gave you. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, you're next. And let's make sure they get 3 minutes, please. Thank you. Name and address, please.
My name is Barbara Koenig, and I live at 617 Tyler Road, so I'm several houses down from the subject property. This case is really simple. I walk by that house almost every single day of my life because I walk my dogs and I have a routine. It was really obvious that she didn't have a construction permit. I mean, we did a remodel the other day and we had construction permits, not the other day, it was before COVID. Seems like it was the other day. And I mean, construction permits are expensive. You have to go through a lot of hoops. You have to get structural engineers to come out. You have to have people come and make sure that everything is done right. None of that was done here. She just went ahead and just did what she wanted. And I went back and I looked at those walls that she has raised to 8 feet. There is no rebar connecting the 4 foot and the 8 foot part. Those things are gonna fall down. They look terrible. And this whole thing about privacy, I'm sorry, but this is the village of New Mexico, of Los Ranchos. And we all treat our neighbors well together, and we do not have to wall ourselves off from each other. And the whole thing about, oh, I wanna have more privacy for my pergola. Well, you know something, there's a lot of other ways you can do that. Vegetation and other things. You don't have to build without a permit. That's the real bottom line here, is that she just came in and decided she didn't have to follow any of the rules, whether it was the village of Los Ranchos, the county of Bernalillo, and where the city of Albuquerque came in, who knows? For goodness sake, she bought this on a real estate contract, and it was very obvious because the owner kept saying, my address is Los Ranchos. So, she didn't say Albuquerque. It was Tambra Bench who sold the property to her on a real estate contract. So she knew perfectly well that she was in the village of Los Ranchos. And if not, she should have known, because it's pretty obvious when you drive into the village and you drive down Tyler Road that you're in the village. That's basically what I have to say. I support my neighbors. I think my neighbors have very legitimate complaints. And I think this is an eyesore, and it was done illegally, and she should not get a variance. Your own article in the village of Los Ranchos, the news, the little magazine that we get every couple months, it says, a variance is not a free pass, which is what she's asking for. It's not permission to do whatever you want with your property. That's what she's asking. So I ask the commission to please deny the variances, all 3 of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yvette Tovar? Oh, sorry. Carlos, do you have anything extra? Yes, he may have something extra. Please. Name and address, please.
Carlos Garcia, 2312 Oakham Drive Northwest. So I've been a contractor for almost 35 years. Yes, we didn't pull a permit. I've lived here my whole life. I've never knew that Los Ranchos was its own municipal. Unfortunately, it sounds crazy, but it is, never knew. So I did get prints. The prints were trying to be submitted through the city, which they said no, that I'd had to go somewhere else. So it's pretty much jumping around from place to place. I went to the county. After the county told me that, no, that it shouldn't go, that it actually had to pass through the municipal, and then for some reason you guys subcontract all the rest of the
Inspections and such.
inspections to the county. Then I understood what was going on. Miss Sharon, she's actually family to me. I was more helping her manage her project. So what we did is I tried to get her in her house. I apologize that it didn't turn out the way it did. I apologize that we didn't pull the permits, but that can still be resolved. If you let this go, I still have to resubmit. I still got to pull permits through the county and redo everything all over again. So whether it's done this way or the other way, it still has to go through a permitting process. I'm doing another house right now in Placitas. Same problem. I didn't know where to pull the permits. Obviously, the permits are pulled from the state now. But again, this is it's not a new build. It was a portal and it was a shed. So I didn't think too much about it. I take accountability for it. Obviously, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Sharon's already spoke, so Mr. Donlin. Tom?
My name is Tom Donlin. I reside at 6668 Edgewood Drive Northwest. Good evening, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. This is such a sticky wicket. You know, I believe the rules need to be followed. And then it's also that somebody did it with probably not ill intent on it. And I just think of the presentation that was done just before this one, where construction was started without a valid permit and was permitted to continue. And it seems like if you're big, you get away with it. If you're small, you don't. And I don't think that's fair. But I really think is that the big project should have been held to the same set of rules as everybody else is. And I still think the rules should be followed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody that's wanting to speak that didn't have an opportunity? I know we had a few people that came in late. Seeing and hearing none. Director Schultz, were you going to say something?
Madam Chair, no, I was just turning on my microphone in case the hot seat came over to me.
Great. All right. So we'll close the record for input from the public and go on to discussion here at the commissioner level. Is there a motion to start our discussion?
I would like to make a motion to deny V 2601, a variance of 9.5 feet to the 15-foot side setback, a variance of 7 foot to the 25-foot setback, and a variance of 2 foot to the 6-foot wall height, with the condition placed by the Planning and Zoning Department.
And subject to findings 1 through 7 in the staff report.
And findings of 1 through 7 in the staff report.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Tagliapetra and seconded by Commissioner Chevington. We're now into discussion.
I don't have anything specific to say, except this sounds like one of those, it's easier to ask forgiveness than seek permission, and I'm in favor of seeking permission.
Well, I will make a few comments. You know, we have rules out there for a number of reasons. One, for continuity and acceptance within our community. As far as the height of your wall goes, a lot of that also has to do with fire department's ability to jump the walls in case of a fire and things like that as well. I've heard concerns from some of the neighbors about the structural stability, perhaps, of the wall, which an inspection would tell us one way or another. We've had people, as long as I've been trustee, for that planning and zoning commissioner, now back trustee again, that want to come to us and say, hey, please let me die on my sword and just give me forgiveness and let me keep what we've got. Even though it's right on the setback, you know, they're too close to the wall. It just creates so many problems all around. There's also concerns about the roof line and that water. One of the requirements that we have, all properties have, not just here in Los Ranchos, but across the state, is the ability to maintain the water that falls on your property in your property. And with that wall, with that pergola roof line coming so close, chances are in a good storm, a lot of that water is going to be bouncing off over into your neighbor's yard as well. And so you wouldn't most likely be retaining your own water. I have just real concerns all around. It looks like at least the pergola, it looks like it's a nice quality item. It's just very unfortunate that it's placed where it is. Are there other comments?
No, I think what's happening here is this is our time for us to talk within each other. And I think that we need to make, and it has absolutely nothing. We are people that got on over here to try to follow the rules and regulations. This has nothing to do with you, ma'am, nothing to do with anybody. But the important part of this is for us to have a discussion about within ourselves. And I think with you guys coming on, these are the things that we're going to be starting to hear. But the most important part that I want to continue reiterating is there is the rules and regulations. Maybe they need to be changed, maybe they need to be outdated, but we need to follow the rules as they sit. If we need to change them, let's go in and let's change them. And I think this is a perfect example for us to be able to have a serious understanding of even what you're defining. If they would have followed it, could have something happened with the engineering, with the code enforcement, et cetera, that brings things to them to really follow something else and move it further back? It could have. But I just want to have this conversation within us to define that this is stuff that we have to really understand, that we have to really stick if we want to do our jobs. And this is a volunteer place. If we want to do our jobs as volunteers, we need to make sure that we follow the rules and regulations. And I think that's just my comment to us, because that's what this is about, us having a conversation with each other about this specific project.
And I'll add something. I truly am scared of the safety of the wall. You know, some of the winds we get, if it's not tied in, that could be dangerous.
Definitely.
I think the point's been made a number of times also that if we allow one variance here, the next person that comes in says, well, you let him get away with it, so why aren't you letting me? So I think sticking to the precedent that we have and carefully examining the exceptions is very much the right way to do it.
And I'll piggyback on that because the comment was made about if you have money, you can get away with it. Well, there's a wall in Rio Grande Avenue that they had a lot of money, and we definitely look at the facts, the reality, and the code, and we did what we needed to do to make it correct. So I don't think this is a money issue here. I think basically what we're trying to do is do our jobs as volunteers on a commission base of following the rules and regulations from the village of Los Ranchos, which we live in, and we want to continue allowing the community to trust in us to continue doing what we do.
Okay. If there's no other comments, I will call the question. So we have a motion before us made by Commissioner Tagliapetra. I believe Commissioner Chivington had seconded to deny this variance package. With that, we will ask roll call vote. So Commissioner Bayless.
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington.
Deny.
Okay. Commissioner Duran.
Deny.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
And that is to deny.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yes
Commissioner
to the
Tagliapetra?
motion.
Yes to her motion.
Yes.
Yes to Drew's motion.
Okay. And Commissioner Homan, I agree. This should be yes, a denial. So the motion carries unanimously. Let the record show that the public hearing on item V2601 is formally closed. I'm very sorry. You'll need to seek the direction from our director in Bernalillo County as well. Okay. We'll move on to ZMA 2601. James Strozier, agent for Betty Jo Stafford, trustee, Stafford RVT, requests a zone map amendment to R3, from R3 to C1 for the property located at 352 Vineyard Road Northwest. Once again, the following will apply to this item of business. The Planning and Zoning Department has deemed this matter to be a quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that certain individual processes and protections are required. One of these protections ensures the adherence of due process, including but not limited to full disclosure at this time by any member of the commission of any real or potential conflict of interest associated with this matter or engagement in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Commissioner Bayless, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
Other than the fact that I eat at Sadie's and I like their chips, no.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication on this item?
I have not.
Commissioner Chivington, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Do you have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Duran, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Martinez, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Tagliapetra, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No, but I still eat there too.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this?
No.
And I think we can all agree that Sadie's food is great. We all eat there. And I, Commissioner Homan, I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter, and I have not engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Director Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The request before you tonight is for a zone map amendment for a 0.52 acre parcel that is currently zoned R3. The request is to amend that zoning district from R3 to C1. The criteria before you this evening is the proposed amendment consistent with the adopted master plan, and does the amendment promote the public health, safety, and general welfare? In considering both of those criteria, staff finds that it is consistent with the master plan. I'll kind of hone in on one policy that I think will come up in public comment tonight. It was brought up in some of the letters that were written related to a 300-foot rule. The master plan does say, consider the 300-foot rule along 4th Street a general guideline for commercial development to avoid conflicts between businesses and adjacent residential areas. That was provided, I think, in some letters of opposition, a note about this, I wouldn't call it a policy, this action step as it's labeled. It's important to know that there's kind of a sub-bullet to that action step, which says, recognize that this guidance's limitations for mixed-use residential and desirable growth in commercial activities. So it kind of throws out there this idea that 300 feet away from 4th Street, there should not be commercial activity, except sometimes there should be. And that is kind of the role of this discretionary board, is to say, in this instance, is it appropriate for there to be commercial activity further than 300 feet from 4th Street? Related to the general health, safety, and welfare analysis of the request, I have lost my staff report, one moment. The biggest thing to consider when for general health, safety, and welfare relates to land use pattern and compatibility. I asked the applicant to provide a use analysis for what land uses are available in the R3 zone district as it's zoned today, and what uses would the property open up to if it were to be rezoned to C1. You'll find a matrix in the staff report, a quick table that says here's what's allowed in R3, here's what's allowed in C1. The important thing to note about that difference in uses, and they are certainly different, there are quite a few new commercial uses that the C1 district allows, is kind of twofold. One, that a lot of the maybe noxious or more impactful uses would require a conditional use permit. So that's an additional step that if the property were rezoned to C1 and they wanted to do one of those uses that are of concern, they would have to come before this body to justify it and to tell you and the public how that use would be mitigated from any potential impacts. Second, I want to address the fact that there is a kind of draft site plan in your packet. What you're considering today is the zoning district, not the site plan related to access, building size, landscaping, parking. That is not the purview of today's decision. If the applicant is to have the zone map amendment awarded today, they would have to do a next step, which is to get a site plan approved. A commercial site plan at the village goes before the Planning and Zoning Commission and then all the way to the Board of Trustees. And so I would request that the commission not focus on the site plan today. That really muddies the water in terms of what the actual review and decision criteria are, because it's not a part of today's decision. With that, the department is recommending approval of this zone map amendment subject to findings 1 through 4 in the staff report, and I will stand for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions of the director?
Just a quickie. When I was looking at the pictures, it looked like there were some things already going on there. I saw some parked vehicles and that sort of thing. What has been going on there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Chivington, I'm not sure. It is currently zoned for residential uses, so there should not be commercial activity occurring on the property. That would include parking of commercial vehicles, storage of commercial items. I'm not familiar with how the property is currently being used, but that would be a great question for the applicant. I should also mention, similar to my comments in the last case, there was a set of comments received after the public comment deadline that you received today, a letter of opposition. And I must apologize to the applicant and to the public. Within the public comment deadline, the department did receive a letter of support that I failed to include in the packet. So I'm going to pass out to you now. The applicant brought this up to me today, and I apologize that this wasn't included for the public and the commission, the one letter of support. So I'll conclude my presentation with that, and I'll walk these sheets to y'all now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment while you're doing that? So one of the letters that was written in here kind of resonated with me, which was the noise level that could be going on in that new application and how close that area is to the house next door. I mean, there's a house and whose wall is probably just the same wall that would be on this property. So it's very close, and I can see how they'd be very concerned.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Chivington, that's a very legitimate concern, and I think that that is the type of impact that would be mitigated through a site plan process, whether that's them choosing to orient the building away from that property line, adding additional wall features to mitigate sounds. And I'll also note that the village does have a noise ordinance, and so we do have a way to regulate noise from a residential or commercial property that is kind of overflowing onto a neighboring property.
Okay. Anything else of the director?
I think I'm piggybacking on him on that house that's so close. I guess following up on you, I guess there's no way to figure out exactly what they have the potential to do. And I guess it's just a matter of them coming in with a site plan to determine. And I guess the final question that maybe we're trying to have here is, does this person have any ability to buffer that? Because that's really, I mean,
No.
I'm looking at that roof line and the property line being adjacent. And again, that commercialism and the noise factor definitely can have an adverse effect to them specifically.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez, thank you for the question. That is a site plan matter. That's when we dive into the design of a property. And there are things like setbacks for a reason. I think that helps kind of buffer buildings from one another. However, through the site plan process, this board and the Board of Trustees has the right to ask for a bigger setback than what the code requires. That's why these site plans are a discretionary approval, that if it would promote the general health, safety, and welfare of adjoining properties, then you're going to ask for something beyond what the base zoning code allows for. So that would all be negotiated at the site plan level and not the zone map amendment level where we're at today.
I have a question. You included in our materials a matrix of permitted versus conditional uses in the C1 zone. One of the late comments we received that you sent to us later today has a different matrix. There's differences. And what I'm specifically asking about is the matrix that you provided in the original package, and I think it was created by the applicant, but that matrix said that under mixed use, it was not going to be allowed mixed use where 50% of the ground floor is retail. On the matrix that we received in the late filing, it says mixed use where 50% is devoted to retail as a permissive use, which would allow up to 16 dwelling units per acre on that half-acre lot. So my question is that mixed use category a permitted use under C1, a prohibited use, or a conditional use?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Bayless, I can certainly look that up in the code. All right, I have my code open. And let me get this right. The matrix provided by the applicant said that mixed use with the 50% ground floor retail provision was not allowed. And what my zoning code says is that it is permissive. So that is an error in the applicant's matrix.
Applicant's matrix.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. The commission should certainly be aware of that. And we can create a finding to that effect if we want to clarify it for the record.
If there was a zone change subject to site plan approval, building a mixed-use development would be a permissive use.
Commissioner Bayless, a permissive use, yes, that means they don't have to come before this commission to ask for that use.
Question?
I have another question. For setbacks, is there a different setback when you go from a commercial property right next to a residential property?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Duran, great question. The setbacks are the same, but what does kick in is a buffering requirement of either a wall or a vegetative buffer, either a 6-foot, I believe it's a 6-foot high wall, or a relatively wide landscape strip, essentially. And that's specific when a commercial property is abutting a residential property.
Maybe I made this up, but I thought I saw in your writing there that Sadie's owns that property?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chivington, yes, that is who owns the property, and their agent will speak to you today about the request, and perhaps a representative from Sadie's as well. I'm not sure who they brought from their team.
And a follow-up on that. So you're saying that when they come back with a site plan, that we will have oversight over the things that they propose to put in there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Chivington, yes, a site plan has to come both before this board for a recommendation up to the Board of Trustees.
I heard somebody back there say no.
Madam Chair, the zoning code is pretty clear. commercial development has to come before both this board and the Board of Trustees.
It's a matter of the village making sure that the rules are being abided by. So, yes.
I just have a question. Could they ask for a special use permit instead of changing a zoning, instead of taking it from residential to commercial?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Talia Pietra, I believe I talked about that option with the applicant, and the village does not issue special use permits anymore. The code has memorialized all the special use permits that have been issued in the past, but it is a zoning tool that the village did away with at some point, and so a special use permit would not be available.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. At this point, let's go ahead and call the applicant up, Mr. Schroeder.
All right. Get this situated correctly. Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Jim Strozier, Principal with Consensus Planning, and my address is 302 8th Street Northwest, Albuquerque. And it's a pleasure to be before you all this evening with this application. So I'm here representing the property owner, the Betty Jo Stafford Trustee, Stafford Revocable Trust, or SADIES. And first, I want to express my gratitude for Ms. Schultz and her assistance regarding the application and her work on the staff report. We have reviewed the staff report, are in agreement with the analysis, recommendations, and findings. We have reviewed, I haven't seen the latest letter of opposition, but we've reviewed the other two that were in the packet. And I'll say, I apologize for the mistake on the matrix. Didn't catch that. There are two different types of mixed use in the C1 district, and one is permissive and one is conditional. Apologize for that mistake. Once again, the intent of this application is to allow for to facilitate the construction of a new warehouse and office space in support of the existing SADIES restaurant and assist with their operations. And so there's no intent to do anything other than that. And I think as stated in the proposed findings, and I really appreciate Ms. Schultz and how she organized this in the staff report. First, I think it is consistent with the 2035 master plan and the 4th Street character area. And I think it's also important to note that even though we did mess up on that one conditional use, as pointed out in the staff report findings, many of those more intense C1 uses do require that next step if you were to go after one of those. And I think that's an important protection that's built into your code to make sure that if somebody requests one of those, they have to go through that extra step and deal with mitigating any harmful impacts of those. And I want to say that, in addition, the site plan requirement is, I think, a huge protection to the public, because that offers an opportunity, and I'm sure we're willing to meet with those neighbors as we develop the site plan and make sure that it's being developed in such a way that actually addresses concerns relative to noise. One of the things, when I read the letters, we reached out to the applicant and asked about hours of operation, because that was one of the things that came up. They're only going to use this facility Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It will not be open. They will not be utilizing it in the evenings or on the weekends. It'll be normal business hours and not restaurant hours. So I think that's important. The other thing is using that site plan to make sure that the arrangement, by owning the property right next door, currently the parking lot and where that
existing trailer office is, they can reconfigure that edge of the property so that all the activity related to this property is coming from that west side. And so that's another commitment that they're willing to make relative to that future site plan process. And I think that is critical, and it will address access, circulation, parking, building placement. And one of the things that, 4th Street is very busy street over there. And as we were talking about it in the office, having a building that's built on the west edge of this property could actually be very beneficial in terms of noise from 4th Street, blocking that as it heads into the neighborhood. And I think that's something that could also be addressed and considered as part of that site plan process. I think with that, if I missed any of the questions that came up earlier, let me know, and I would appreciate your support.
Yes. So, Commissioner Bayless, do you have a question of the applicant?
Yeah, the matrix you provided, I understand it's complicated and you can miss one or two. But under the permissive uses in R3, you've left a lot of blanks. I understand that the applicant at least is considering using this for office, warehouse, perhaps parking. In R3, where it sells commercial storage facilities, that's blank. I don't know if it's permitted, not allowed, or conditional. And the same with office and the same with parking. So my question, maybe Shanna can answer it better. Are the proposed uses, at least the indicated proposed uses, allowed, permitted, or prohibited in the R3 zone?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, yes, I think the key probably could have been a little more clear at this. I believe that if a box is blank, that means that the use is not allowed in that zone district.
Prohibited.
P is permissive, blank, disallowed, and for some reason X is conditional use.
Well, he's got X's and C's and blanks. So does that mean if it's?
So I could, and I apologize, we should, let's see, so at the bottom of the table, the X means that it's permissive. Why we didn't use a P, I can't say, but, right. So X means it's permissive, C means it's conditional, and if it's blank, it's prohibited. It's not allowed.
It's not allowed, okay.
Yes. So you can see that.
I couldn't figure out.
Right. So on the R3, most of those uses at the top of the matrix are residential in nature. Those are all allowed by right. Then you get into some things like childcare, schools, those types of things. Those are conditional in the R3, but most of those residential uses are not allowed within the C1, and then many uses are either permissive or conditional in the C1 as compared to R3.
Most of your prospective uses would not be allowed, be prohibited in R3.
That's correct. And they would be permissive in the C1.
Madam Chair, whether you vote to recommend or deny to the Board of Trustees tonight, I would make an ask to the applicant for a revised use analysis that does a couple things. One, if the key could be at the top instead of the bottom, and if some of your designations could change letters in a way that would make it a little more intuitive to read, staff and the Board of Trustees would appreciate that.
We can certainly do that, yes.
I do have a question. Did I read correctly that you said no entry from Vineyard?
No entry from Vineyard, yes.
So that will be totally fenced, blocked off?
Well, right now there's a gate there, and if there needs to be any access for emergency purposes, we could certainly make that available for that. But the intent is with this site plan to clearly show reconfiguration of that parking on the west edge and show that access and connectivity between the existing parking lot for Sadie's and this property.
So with the connectivity that you're talking about, are you going to remove the west wall then of that property?
We will have to we will definitely have to reconfigure that. That west edge is most likely to either become a combination of building for the warehouse and access in and out of the warehouse building, and then to the office. There would be a small amount of parking that would be on that property for employees, and that would be accessed from the west to get into that parking area. So we've already started thinking about how can we design this in a way that minimizes any adverse impact to the neighbor immediately to the east. And if that includes additional landscaping or improvements to that wall between those properties, we'll certainly look at that time. And we will most likely be completely reconfiguring and I know we're getting into the site plan.
Director Schultz, this is a site plan
I
issue, right?
understand. I was just more concerned that if you were taking the wall down, what would help buffer sound? That was all I was really going after. Okay, thank you.
Site plan issues.
Madam Chair, just a gentle and friendly reminder that any conversation related to the circulation, access, design of the site is not relevant to this request. The commission can make no requirements or conditions related to site layout at this time, and would be best saved for the future site plan hearing.
Great.
I have a question.
Commissioner Duran.
Why, I guess, are you applying to change the zoning on that piece when there's all that, you guys own the empty space behind Sadie's, right? So why would you not just put the warehouse there instead of change the zoning for that piece up on the north side?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I will take a stab at answering that, but I also have our clients here, and they can certainly help with that. I think it's really kind of operational, that edge of where the parking lot and the existing trailer office is already sort of used operationally in that way, and expanding into that property that they own allows them to be very efficient with the operational aspects of the property and supporting the restaurant operation.
Right. Didn't Director Schultz say, though, that because it's residential, it shouldn't be used like that currently?
Madam Chair,
No,
Commissioner Duran, yeah, the R3 property at present should not be used for commercial
Correct.
uses. I'm not sure if that's what Mr. Strozier was
The
saying.
trailer I'm speaking of is on the existing Sadie's property.
Oh, right, okay.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
So that's on the existing C1 property, not on this lot.
Thank you for that question, because that raised a red flag for me too.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to comments? Okay, we'll go through our list of speakers. Mr. Gallegos? Ray Gallegos? Sir, were you sworn in earlier? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ray Gallegos. I live at 348 Vineyard, directly next to the city's property. I want to say I've been friends with these guys forever. I went to school with their dad and their uncle. And I just find it weird that they want to do that there. And I talked to Brian about it. Why? When they own all that other property. So I think my question is, if they own that other property that's theirs that could be commercial, why bother with that one? That was my main concern, because I'm right next door. And that property behind them can be used, I thought, for it, but I don't know. But that's my main concern, is that if they already have that and own that, the further away from me, the better, but the wall that's behind Sadie's, I guess it's all theirs. So that's what my understanding was. So I wasn't sure if he's asking for the request on the residential side when he already owns the other side.
Wouldn't, if they expanded to the east, as you're suggesting, wouldn't that still fall on your south side of your property?
Yeah, but it's theirs on the other side, you know what I mean? So if their Sadie's is here and I'm here, but they own all this here,
Mm-hmm.
I mean.
You're still going to be impacted, because you still would have a common wall.
No.
No.
Further away.
Yeah. the
Because
house
there's
would be.
another property.
Oh, there's one between?
Yeah, there's another.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my concern to Brian. I said, well, I understand, and that place is tiny. I mean, it's really tiny for parking, and I thought, well, he owns that other property, and that was my concern, is that why he wasn't asking for permission on that side. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcella? No comment, thank you. Darnell? Daryl. Oh, I'm sorry. Daryl, I'm so sorry.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Daryl Mummert. I live at 330 Vineyard Road, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Rick and Kater Zimke, who live at 334 Vineyard Road. They're unable to be here tonight, and they wanted me to speak on their behalf. So I'm going to take longer than 3 minutes, because in this process, I feel like we, the residents, we're the defendants, and we shouldn't be. And we don't get enough time to talk, but I'm the one that submitted a second set of questions, and I submitted them before the 12 o'clock deadline so you guys would have them, and I'm thinking you all didn't read them. I'm the one that caught the matrix they had, that it's very convenient. They didn't leave off one thing, they left off two. And I'm like, why do I have to dig through every little nook and cranny to make sure the process is being followed? And I met with the planning zoning director, and she was very helpful in her original. I'm like, what do I do? How does the process work? She walked me through it. She was very helpful. And I did bring up the 300-foot guideline. And by the way, that's the only thing in the master plan. That is a guideline. Nothing else. Her recommendation is based on, well, we want mixed use. That's a strict guideline, and that guideline is there for a reason. When the Village of Los Ranchos adopted or annexed 4th Street, I want you guys to pull up a map and draw a line past 300 feet all the way down 4th Street on each side and see how many residents are beyond that 300-foot. Crazy. And so by taking this is a tiny property, and saying, well, this one is different, it's special, you're asking for spot zoning. And I've spelled that out in many of my documents, and that's an illegal practice. But that 300-foot is a guideline. And Commissioner Martinez, I applaud you saying we need to follow. We can't cherry pick things. This is there for a reason. There's a buffer right now. We have 2 commercial properties, one on each side, Sadie's and Dion's. They have parking lots, holding ponds. Those are our buffer from the commercial. And then when you allow that to creep into this half-acre property, and it's like, well, then now you can put a building, and we talk about this, we've talked about this in the planning zoning. What they say they're gonna do, nothing is binding. I'm gonna close off that entrance to Vineyard. There's no legal binding. They could do whatever. They could get it C1 and sell it. The permissible uses, they could get it and they could put a cannabis store.
The speaker's time has expired.
I'm gonna take some time because I don't think you guys have read all of this. One of the things
Sir,
also.
I'll give you 2 more
Yes.
minutes.
So one of the things that was omitted in this, and you go to the zone document, you cut and paste, and it tells you, and it's in the documents I sent you, is one of the things they left out on the conditional permissible uses is alcohol sales. It's permissible there. It's not, they just put the conditional use from 12 to 2 p.m. 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. It's not in there. I caught these. I submitted questions to the planning zoning director 5 days ago, and I never got an answer. So that's why I had to bring it to you. You guys are our voice in this. You guys represent the residents. You, Commissioner Duran, you were spot on. There's 5 acres of C1 next to their property, 40-foot gate. You don't change a tiny parcel to make it convenient for a property owner. That back lot should be used. And by the way, there's a 2-acre parcel that borders 2 C1 on 2 zones that's closer to 4th Street on the opposite side. Take a look at it on the map. What happens when you say, hey, we approve this? Well, then if they apply, you've got a massive lot. What if Ray, who lives next door, he's like, hey, I got a vacant lot behind me. I want that C1. And if you deny it, you're giving this one little property special treatment, and that's an illegal practice. So we've had enough dealing with illegal practices. Look at that 300-foot guideline. That's our rule in this. Nothing, I mean, if we want to make everybody happy, just say, this is denied.
The speaker's time has expired.
This is taking up, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Vincent Sanchez.
My name is Vincent Sanchez, 6802 Rio Grande. I'd like to start out with something that came up. Is anyone in the family, or is anyone related to the business asking for this related to the owners of the EJS LLC property, which is the one I believe he was talking to? Okay. They're in control of the 4 acres. Okay. So it's a large. I too am in opposition to this zoning change. It takes priority of the 4th Street commercial zone and puts the burden into the residential area. The conceptual site plan provided is subjective. It has the potential to exist in harmoniously next to the neighborhood, but that conceptual site plan is not the question being asked. In actuality, the problem is the zoning change and what it would allow in the future. A C1 designation would allow many different types of site plan visions. The allowable land use would cause detrimental impact to the abutting and surrounding neighbors. If a warehouse and office are the needs of the business, the property has its own parking lots to use, and apparently 4 open acres. The business must find a balance of the employees and customer parking within its desire for more commercial storage and offices, without putting that burden on the neighborhood. I'll finish with a thought exercise. Would it be appropriate to put a residential house where Speedway gas station is? That's the inverse of this request. By my own standard previously stated, it would take the priority of the residential area and put the burden on the 4th Street commercial zone. This ask doesn't make any sense. I understand, I don't want businesses to get kneecapped for something, but I feel like this is an excessive ask, especially in light of the ownership of a property that's barren and already commercial. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dolan.
My name is Tom Donnellan. I reside at 6668 Edgewood Drive Northwest. Good evening again, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for listening to our residents as you take this into consideration. What I wonder as I looked at this, and it looks, in many ways it looks reasonable that the business owns the land and they're just extending onto that land. What doesn't make sense is that if you can't deal with circulation, you've got a lot that's C1 that could be sold off, and the only access that they would have, unless they made special arrangements with the owner of the other property, they would be going out on Vineyard. And that seems, for me, that seems really inappropriate to put a C1 that has access, that only has access from Vineyard. Things that I can think of is doing a plot change and adding that lot to the lot they already own, so that then it becomes a single contiguous piece, and it wouldn't, you could then regulate what's happening in terms of vehicle access because it's all on one piece of property. But when it's a separate piece of property, they sell it, it's now the new owner is going to say, I have a right to go out on the vineyard because that's the only legitimate access that I have. So as it stands, as it's proposed here, I would be in opposition to allowing it to be C1. I think there's ways that it could be made. I mean, it's sort of reasonable that C1's going to hit a buffer on residential, someplace along there. It's more to create individual lots in our R3 zone that are C1. That doesn't seem appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's been a request by a commissioner for a bio break, so let's take 5. Commissioners, please do not go mingle because we've got this matter in discussion right now.
But by the way, I didn't get sworn in.
Shame on me.
I swear that I didn't
realize. I know the property owners.
Okay.
I realized it's happening.
Behind.
Do you think that makes you conflicted?
I don't know. I mean,
Conflict
yeah.
of interest is kind of a personal
I know,
choice on
I
issues.
know, that's why I didn't realize until everybody started talking about the house next door. And then I realized that I know them.
Just knowing someone does not necessarily mean that you're conflicted.
Okay, well, I just wanted to
Yeah.
lay it out on the line because I don't want to find myself in any kind
Yeah.
of. Yep.
Oh, for sure,
Well,
yes.
after the motion. After the motion.
Yep.
We have to do is make a motion either way. And then we have the ability to make a discussion on it. Oh. I'm glad they called it park break.
I know, you're good, but would that, would, I think this. Right, but it has to require teaching as well. Right, I'm not asking you. I'm just saying that, I mean, there was a requirement that there be a plaza-like area. That was required. And it was required that there be commercial residence, no, or
But it's usually ladder, yeah, Drew's ladder. It's okay. Whew. Ladder's gone. Yeah, I brought all this. This one.
Is that your husband?
I don't think so. He knows I'm over here for the duration.
What was originally in the site,
We're calling the meeting back to order. All right, we've gone through the speakers that have signed up for this matter. Do the commissioners have any questions now of either our director or the applicant? Okay.
Sorry, I have a question.
Okay, Commissioner Duran, who are you directing it to?
Is it on? Yeah, I think so. I guess to the director first.
Okay.
I think it was Commissioner Bayless who had maybe the suggestion that a replat could have happened, or no, actually, sorry, it wasn't you. It was one of the speakers.
Mr. Donovan.
Sorry, apologies. If you replat it and turn that residential lot into the C1 next to it, what's the process for doing that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Duran, I think the first thing to note is a zone map amendment is required either way. If they were to move forward with a replat to essentially remove the property line between the subject property and the existing one, that would create what we call a floating zone line. So that would have to be rectified one way.
Excuse me, we're back in hearing, please.
That would have to be rectified one way or another through a zone map amendment process. So yes, the property owner could replat the property. The village would consider that a major subdivision action, which requires a sketch plat before this body, a preliminary plat before this body, a final preliminary plat before Board of Trustees, and then a final plat before this body. That is an available option.
Commissioner Tagliaferra.
I have a quick question. You said a major subdivision plat then? How does commercial turn into a subdivision?
Mayor, not Mayor, I'm sorry. Chair Homan, don't let Mr. Mayor hear me say that. Madam Chair, Commissioner Tagliaferra, a subdivision action can be applicable to both commercial and residential properties. I know when we think the word subdivision, it inspires a kind of row of homes, but a subdivision is the literal action of dividing or combining property. So we have a subdivision ordinance that sets forth the rules for that, and you do that on both commercial, residential, agricultural, industrial, any type of property.
Okay.
Could I make a motion to push this off for a month?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless.
Bayless.
Thank you. The options before the commission tonight are either to approve, recommend approval to the Board of Trustees, recommend denial to the Board of Trustees, or defer to a time of your choice. If it's the will of this commission to defer, I think both the staff and the applicant would appreciate direction on what needs to happen in that period of deferral to help you make a decision at the next hearing.
Well, I would like to move for deferral, and let me explain why. A zone change is permanent, and we're not supposed to be considering what they say they want to do with the property. If I'm going to approve a zone change, it's going to be able to let him do whatever the zone says he is allowed to do. I'm sorry, I didn't read the whole zoning code for permissible uses before I came tonight, but I don't know enough about what's permissive, what's prohibited, and what's conditional in those two zones. We have two charts, and they're different. And I would like to know for a fact what he could or could not do without regard to what he says he's going to do, what he could or could not do under every scenario before we make what amounts to a permanent decision as to whether he can or cannot do that. So I would like to move to defer this for 1 month until we get, I guess it's on your plate, Director, to make us a real chart that shows permissive, conditional, and prohibited uses in the two zones side by side, so at least I know when I'm voting what I'm potentially allowing the applicant to do.
Madam
Whether-
Chair, Commissioner Bayless, that's a legitimate concern and comment, and staff could produce kind of a third-party internal use table distinct from what the applicant submitted, distinct from what the public comment submitted, that would be verified by village staff, yeah.
Okay. We've got a motion on the table from Director Bayless. Is there a second? Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Okay, this is open discussion. So I have an additional question while we're making this large consideration. That parcel that we've pointed to is the large vacant parcel behind them that is owned by Sadie's. Is it in the village or not? Is it bifurcated in its positioning between unincorporated Bernalillo County and the village, or what do we have here?
Madam Chair, I'm looking at my Bernalillo County kind of jurisdictional map right now, and what I can confirm for you is the entirety of that parcel is Zone C1, and it is within the village limits.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
My only comment is that I am hearing very strongly that residents have some very, very, very strong concerns. And I don't know if the ability to have some kind of communication between you and the residents, because I think that plays very, very, very strong on a lot of things. You have neighbors that know you very well, neighbors that are going to be there forever and ever, and you guys have a very strong bond between what's happening over here. And no different earlier than what happened over here with neighbors. It came together really positive at the beginning, but at the end they're cats and dogs, and I don't like, et cetera, et cetera. And I would not like to see that, because I think that the reputation of Sadie's and the reputation of your neighborhood is something that I think that you guys are very strongly wanting to continue. So it would be advantageous for 30 days for you guys to have a really, really strong conversation with the neighbors. And I think that's gonna make a big, big difference in coming back next month. That's the only comment that I feel I'd like to make.
Other comments?
Are we making comments just on the deferral? We're just talking about the deferral?
Anything that would have to do with
Anything
our
to do with it.
consideration in approving the deferral?
Okay, then no, okay.
I actually feel like this is extreme spot zoning, but that is me.
Well, if we do defer, I would like to hear from the applicant at that time why they are choosing not to use that piece of property behind there. Okay? Okay, anything else? Okay, then we're going to call the question. It's been moved by Commissioner Bayless that we defer discussion on this until next meeting, which is April.
It is, Madam Chair, it's April 14th, and I would just like to make a note about the calendar, particularly in light of Commissioner Martinez's request that the applicant meet with the public. I just want to make the applicant aware that if they're to put together additional material or have a meeting, that I, as the person that needs to produce the staff report, will need those materials by Thursday, April 2nd, to make sure that I have time to do an analysis before I get you guys the staff report in a couple days after that.
Okay, so it's been moved by Commissioner Bayless and seconded by Commissioner Tagliapetra. With that, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless.
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington. Commissioner Duran.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra.
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. So this item has been deferred until our next meeting in April. Let the record show that. Okay. So with that then, we move to item 5, which is old business, and we have none. And then, excuse me, we're still on the record. Old business, we have none. Commissioner, item number 6 is new business. And could you tell us what this new business is all about, Director?
Yes, Madam Chair, the item listed under new business is a request for 2 commissioners to kind of self-nominate to assist me with drafting this board some rules of procedure. The Board of Trustees just recently adopted their own rules of procedure, and I think it would make it very clear to the public and to applicants if we had a rule of procedure book in place for this board that could cover things like how much time is given for public comment. It could cover things like when is public comment due, when can you get it to us that it'll be included into the packet and undergo staff analysis versus if you get it to us later, it will be provided to the commission without analysis. It would be great to set some benchmarks for how not only these meetings run, but how the public interfaces with getting us materials. This is a pretty standard thing for these commissions. In fact, the zoning code mandates that you're supposed to have one. And so I would appreciate two of you who are maybe rule nerds to volunteer to work with me. And my proposal would be that I take a first stab at what I think is a very solid rule of procedure book. And then I work with 2 of you to kind of workshop it, and then we'll present it to the full commission at a future date.
Okay, I would like to self-nominate. Okay. So Commissioner Tagliapetra and myself.
Okay, I don't think that needs a formal vote for them to, yeah. So just, I'll make a note that in a couple weeks, you will hear from me with a draft document, and maybe we can get together and go over what I've proposed. You can propose changes, and then in the coming months, we'll bring it to the full board for their consideration.
Sounds great, thank you. And with that, we're down to the adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you being here tonight. Let the record show that we have concluded at 8:14.
Good meeting, gentlemen.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Voice in the sky.
Voice from the sky, coming down from above. I truly thought it was a man, though. We've always been told it's a man up there.